Hello, I am very pleased to meet you again. Today, we will explore the potential to effectively complete survival Japanese using the 5 communication principles we introduced last time. Let's review the 5 communication principles we introduced last time, one by one. The first communication principle is understanding the expressions required at each stage of communication that occurs in 4 steps. When you travel to Japan or live in Japan, you will often communicate when purchasing goods or services. Typically, communication for purchasing involves 4 steps. First, when you meet someone, you greet them. Then, you purchase the goods or services. Next, you complete the payment for the purchase. Finally, when you leave the place of purchase, you say goodbye. If you know the expressions needed for each step, you will be able to communicate successfully in many situations that arise in Japan. For example, when you buy bottled water at a convenience store, you will experience the following 4 steps. The first step is the greeting stage. When you enter the convenience store, you will first greet the sales staff. At this time, you can greet the staff with the phrase,
こんにちは。
Then, in the second step, the purchase stage, you will buy a bottle of water. The Japanese expression you can use is,
ミネラルウォーターを1本ください。
The expression purchase item plus O, plus kudasai, can be used in all purchasing situations and is also a phrase you can use when requesting something. The third step is the payment stage. You will check the price of the bottled water to make your payment. The expression you can use at this point is,
いくらですか？
Once the payment is completed, the final stage is the farewell stage. At this time, you can use the Japanese expression,
さようなら。
As you leave the convenience store, you can use this expression with the sales staff. Therefore, if you know the expressions needed for each step, you will be able to communicate successfully with the sales staff to purchase the desired items. As shown in the table on the YouTube screen, I have organized the necessary Japanese expressions for each stage along with their corresponding English expressions. Now, let's take a closer look at the Japanese expressions needed for each step. The Japanese expression required for the first step, greeting stage, is,
こんにちは。
This greeting can be used from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. Before 10 a.m., the Japanese greeting you can use is,
おはよ
If you want to greet someone more politely, you can say,
う。おはようございます。
It's important to note that, gozaimasu, should only be used with morning greetings. The Japanese greeting you can use after 5 p.m. is,
こんばんは。
The expression needed for the second step, the purchase stage, is, as briefly introduced earlier, purchase item plus O, plus kudasai. This expression can be used when purchasing items. For example, if you want to eat bibimbap at a restaurant, you can say,
ビビンバをください。
The expression needed for the third step, the payment stage, is,
いくらですか？
This expression is used to check the price of goods or services, similar to the English phrase how much. Of course, if you already know the price, this Japanese expression may be unnecessary. However, you can use this expression when you want to confirm the price before making a purchase. The expression needed for the last step, the farewell stage, is,
さようなら。
This Japanese expression is something you can say to someone when you are leaving a specific place. It is used with the same meaning as the English expression, bye-bye. To summarize the first communication principle, understanding the expressions needed at each stage of communication that occurs in 4 steps, the purchasing process consists of 4 procedural stages: greeting, purchasing, paying, and saying goodbye. The expression needed for the first step, the greeting stage, is,
こんにちは。
Since greetings can vary depending on the time of day, be sure to check the other greeting expressions introduced earlier in the greeting stage. The Japanese expression needed for the second step, the purchase stage, is purchase item plus O plus kudasai. The expression needed for the third step, the payment stage, is,
いくらですか？
Finally, the Japanese expression you will need for the last step, the farewell stage, is,
さようなら。
If you know the Japanese expressions needed for each step, you will be able to communicate successfully in many situations involving Japanese language interaction. When purchasing services instead of goods, you can use the expressions needed for the first, third, and fourth steps just as you would when buying products. The stage you need to pay attention to is the second step, the purchase stage. The reason you should be cautious during the second step is that depending on the service you are purchasing, various expressions may be required. Therefore, the second step can be complex and challenging when buying services. However, if you can understand two different situations when purchasing services and remember and utilize the expressions needed for each situation, you will be able to successfully acquire the services you want. The first situation when purchasing services is one where you are buying a tangible service, similar to when buying products. As mentioned earlier, you can use the expression, purchase item plus O plus kudasai, when buying products. This expression can also be used when purchasing tangible services. For example, if you want to order bibimbap at a restaurant, you can say,
ビビンバをください。
Alternatively, to be more polite, you can express it as,
ビビンバをお願いします。
When purchasing a tangible service, you can use the expressions desired service plus O, plus kudasai, or desired service plus O onigai shimaru. Another example would be if you want to request orange juice on an airplane, you can express it as,
オレンジジュースをお願いします。
By remembering the expression, desired service plus O onigai shimaru, you will be able to request the services you want when buying tangible services. However, when you are purchasing a service that involves a specific action, rather than requesting a tangible service such as bibimbap or orange juice, you need to use different expressions depending on the service you are buying. For example, if you are at a restaurant and you want to ask the staff to clear the table you will be sitting at, you can say,
テーブルを片付けてください。
In English, this would be translated as, please clear the table. If you want to say please wipe the table, you can express it in Japanese as,
テーブルを拭いてください。
On the other hand, if you are at a hair salon and you want to get a perm, you should be able to say to the salon staff, please give me a perm. In Japanese, this is expressed as,
パーマをかけてください。
If you want to dye your hair, you should be able to say, please dye my hair. In Japanese, you would express it as,
染めてください。
If you take a taxi, you need to inform the driver of your destination. The expression you can use in this case is, please take me to my destination. In Japanese, this can be expressed as, destination, plus marde, plus onigai shimaru. For example, if you are going to the city hall, you can say,
市役所までお願いします。
Therefore, when purchasing services, the expressions needed in the second step, the purchase stage, vary depending on what service you are buying, so you will need to prepare different expressions. In summary, the expressions needed for the service purchase stage differ depending on the service you are buying. The expressions needed in the purchase stage vary depending on what product or service you are buying, so you need to utilize your second communication principle, goal-oriented communication. The second communication principle, goal-oriented communication, is a strategy that involves checking and preparing the necessary expressions for successful purchases in specific buying situations before making the purchase, and practicing them if necessary. To reiterate why goal-oriented communication is important, in the communication process that occurs in 4 procedural stages, the expressions needed for the first greeting stage, the third payment stage, and the fourth farewell stage are respectively.
こんにちは。いくらですか？さようなら。
These 3 expressions can be used consistently in any purchasing situation. However, in the second step, the purchase stage, as noted earlier, the necessary expressions depend on what product or service you are buying. Therefore, in everyday situations involving Japanese communication for purchasing activities, the success or failure of communication is determined by whether you can communicate successfully in the second step. For example, at a convenience store, you can buy the bottled water you want with just one expression.
ミネラルウォーターを1本ください。
However, when purchasing shoes, Japanese communication can be complex and challenging. You cannot simply use the expression,
この靴をください。
which means, please give me these shoes, to buy the desired shoes. This is because the sales staff will ask you about your shoe size and the color of shoes you prefer. To prepare for purchasing shoes, you need to prepare and practice the necessary expressions. In other words, if your shoe size is 265 millimeters, you need to find out how to express that in Japanese. In Japan, centimeters are used, therefore, 265 millimeters is commonly referred to as.
26、5、
Thus, before purchasing shoes, it's important to check, prepare, and practice how to express your shoe size in Japanese. Additionally, if you want to buy pink shoes, you should be able to say,
ピンクをください。
meaning please give me pink. By confirming how to express pink in Japanese and practicing it, you will be able to purchase shoes in your desired color. If you use the expression, desired item, plus O, plus kudasai, when buying a product, the necessary expressions for you will be
26号をください。
for your shoe size and
ピンクをください。
for the color. Whether you use a translator or a dictionary, you can confirm that 26.5 is expressed in Japanese as Nijiroku go. Furthermore, pink can be confirmed as pinku in Japanese. Therefore, you can understand that you can express these as Nijiroku o kudasai and pinku o kudasai. In summary, the second principle, goal-oriented communication, is a principle that prepares you to communicate successfully by checking and practicing in advance the necessary expressions for purchasing a specific product or service before making the purchase. The assertion that the second communication principle, goal-oriented communication, is effective is based on the following perspective. Consider a job interview. The reason a job interview is challenging is that you cannot know the interview questions in advance. If you could know the interview questions beforehand, you could prepare and practice your responses to each question, overcoming the difficulties of the job interview and achieving satisfying results. Similarly, if you are prepared to communicate in Japanese, your purchasing activities conducted in Japanese will also be much more pleasant. Before engaging in purchasing activities, whether you use a translator or seek help from those around you, be sure to check, prepare, and practice the necessary expressions for purchasing a specific product or service in advance. This kind of language activity is precisely what goal-oriented communication entails. By utilizing goal-oriented communication, you will be able to communicate successfully in most Japanese language situations. We will examine the examples and advantages of goal-oriented communication using the Japanese expression, te kudasai. This expression is used to request an action. It functions similarly to how we form polite requests in Korean by modifying the verb stem. In Korean, when we want to request that someone do something, we take the verb stem and add a polite ending, such as
주세요. 주세요.
For example, the verb ikta has the stem ik. When we want to ask someone to read for us, we combine it to form
읽어주세요.
which means please read. Similarly, for the verb,
깎다.
we use the stem
까.
and say,
깎아주세요.
asking please cut. In contrast, while Korean verbs typically end in the basic form, da, Japanese verbs have various endings that can change based on the form of the verb. The expression, te kudasai, is constructed differently depending on the specific verb ending. For instance, in Japanese, the verb form may change based on its tense or the action being requested, thus creating different patterns for polite requests. For example, with Group 1 verbs, verbs that end with wu and tsu use the expression tsute kudasai. For instance, the verb matsu, meaning to wait, ends with tsu. Therefore, by combining the stem ma with tsute kudasai, we can say
待ってください。
which means please wait. Another example is the verb emotsu, meaning to hold, which also ends with tsu. Thus, when we combine the stem emo with tsute kudasai, it becomes
持ってください。
meaning please hold. When using the expression motte kudasai with o, which serves as the object marker in Korean, it becomes desired item plus o plus motte kudasai. This allows you to request someone to hold the item you want. Therefore, utilizing goal-oriented communication, if what you want is namatsu, meaning luggage, how would you say please hold the luggage in Japanese? You would express it as
荷物を持ってください。
Instead of namatsu, you can use any desired item in front of the object marker o, thus forming desired item plus o plus motte kudasai, which allows you to request someone to hold your desired item. Another example is for verbs that end with ru, where you can request the action of the verb using the expression verb stem plus te kudasai. For instance, the verb miru, meaning to see, has the ending ru, so you can say
見てください。
which means please look. Similarly, for the verb tabaru, meaning to eat, the ending is also ru, allowing you to express it as
食べてください。
meaning please eat. If you use a specific food item in front of the object marker o, it creates the expression specific food plus o plus,
食べてください。
which can be used to encourage someone to try that specific food. Utilizing goal-oriented communication, if the food you are recommending is,
떡볶이,
you would express it as,
トッポッキを食べてください。
if the food you are recommending is donkatsu, breaded pork cutlet, how would you encourage someone to try it? You would say.
とんかつを食べてください。
Finally, for verbs that end with su, you use the expression a verb stem plus shite plus kudasai. For example, the verb kakunin suru, meaning to confirm, has the ending suru. Although this verb ends with ru, as mentioned previously, the expression can follow the pattern of verb stem plus te kudasai. However, following the su, you can request the action of the verb using shite. Therefore, when requesting the action of a verb that ends with suru, you would use the expression verb stem plus shite kudasai. You can also use it with the object marker o before the confirmation target to form the expression confirmation target plus o plus kakunin shite kudasai. For instance, if the confirmation target is passport, you would express it as
パスポートを確認してください。
if the confirmation target is reservation, you would say in Japanese.
予約を確認してください。
Among the 6 forms of verb conjugation, I have organized which types combine with the verb stem in the comments section. In conclusion, by utilizing goal-oriented communication and checking and preparing the Japanese expressions for your desired confirmation target with the help of a translator or those around you, you will be able to communicate successfully in Japanese. In summary, goal-oriented communication is a communication strategy that involves checking and preparing the necessary expressions for participation in communication situations beforehand and practicing them as needed. It can be seen as a form of preparatory practice or rehearsal. If you utilize goal-oriented communication in your Japanese interactions, you will be able to communicate successfully in most communication situations. To utilize the second principle, goal-oriented communication, effectively, you need to understand what conversations might occur in specific purchasing situations and what expressions will be necessary to participate in those conversations beforehand. To do this, it is essential to comprehend the third communication principle, common core. Now, let's take a look at the third principle, common core. The third principle is common core. Common core helps you understand the common features that are shared between different countries or across various communication situations. In other words, common core enables you to grasp the shared characteristics of communication that arise in diverse contexts, facilitating goal-oriented communication and ultimately aiding in the smooth execution of communication. Common core can be subdivided into 3 lists. The first is the macro sense of common core. The macro sense of common core refers to the view that there are common communication features that appear between different countries, such as between your country and Japan, or between different cultures. For example, the 4 procedural steps that occur in a purchasing situation are common characteristics found in the purchasing activities of both Korea and Japan. When you purchase a product or service, you experience the 4 procedural steps discussed earlier. These 4 stages of purchasing activities are not unique to your country, they are common traits found in Japan and in most countries around the world. Similarly, whether you are purchasing shoes or clothing, in your area, in Japan, or anywhere in the world, sellers check the customer's size and color preferences. By understanding these commonalities that arise in communication, you can anticipate and prepare for the procedures or expressions necessary for purchasing activities in Japan based on your experiences in your own country. Thus, by utilizing the macro sense of Common Core, you can engage in goal-oriented communication in Japan. The second list of Common Core is the micro sense of Common Core. The micro sense of Common Core is based on the view that certain expressions can be commonly used across various communication situations. For example, the Japanese expressions, desired item, plus o, plus kudasai, can be applied in all purchasing situations. Additionally, the expression,
いくらですか?
can be used to ask for prices in any purchasing activity. Furthermore, the expression,
さようなら
is a phrase you can use to say goodbye to someone, regardless of whether it's a purchasing situation. If you utilize the micro sense of Common Core in your Japanese communication, you will significantly reduce the burden of learning and memorizing the numerous expressions needed for various Japanese communication situations. For example, not only for purchasing products but also when buying tangible services, such as beverages or food, you can use the expressions, desired beverage or food, plus, o plus, kudasai or, desired beverage or food, plus o, plus.
お願いします
For instance, if you want to order coffee, you can say,
コーヒーをください
or,
コーヒーをお願いします
if you want to order, donkatsu, you would say,
とんかつをお願いします
if you consider the result of a haircut at a salon to be tangible, you can express it with, desired service, plus, o plus.
お願いします
For example, if you think a perm is a tangible outcome of hairstyling, you would express please give me a perm as.
パーマをお願いします
Similarly, if you consider hair dyeing to be a tangible outcome, you would say please dye my hair as.
カラーリングをお願いします
On the other hand, even for intangible services, you can use the expression, desired service, plus, o, plus.
お願いします
Depending on the situation. For example, transportation services do not yield tangible outcomes. However, you can still use the expression, destination, plus.
お願いします
For instance, if your destination is the city hall, instead of saying,
市役所までお願いします
you can simply say,
市役所お願いします
this is similar to English. Instead of saying please take me to the city hall, you could simply say, city hall, please. A good example of a communication situation that demonstrates the advantages of the micro sense of Common Core is when you need to purchase a ticket to use a service. The basic expression is,
チケットをお願いします
if you want to specify the type of ticket for the service you are purchasing, you can use the expression, desired service, plus no, plus chikato, plus o, plus.
お願いします
For example, if you want to buy a ticket to attend a concert, you would say,
コンサートのチケットをお願いします
if you want to buy a ticket to watch a movie, you can express it as.
映画のチケットをお願いします
Additionally, when purchasing a ticket for a transportation service to visit a specific destination, you can use the expression, destination, plus, no plus, chikato, plus, o plus.
お願いします
For example, if the destination is Tokyo, you would say,
東京のチケットをお願いします
of course, to be clearer, you could include the descriptor, e-key, as follows.
東京行きのチケットをお願いします
If you share the responsibility of conversation with the ticket counter staff, you can simply say,
東京お願いします
to purchase a ticket to Tokyo. By utilizing the fourth communication principle, sharing the responsibility of conversation, the ticket counter staff will understand that you want to purchase a ticket to Tokyo. In summary, by using the micro-sense of universal core, the common expression for purchasing a ticket and then accessing the service is desired service, plus, no, plus, chiketo, plus, o plus.
お願いします。
Along with the expression, desired service, plus, no plus, chiketo, plus, o, plus.
お願いします。
You will now need to inform the sales staff of the number of tickets you are purchasing. You can convey the number of tickets before
お願いします。
using the following expression, desired service, plus, no, plus, chiketo, plus, o, plus, number, plus.
お願いします。
For example, when purchasing one ticket, you would say, desired service, plus, no, plus, chiketo, plus, o, plus, ichimai, plus.
お願いします。
For 2 tickets, you would say, nimai, for 3 tickets, sarnmai, for 4 tickets, yanmai, and for 5 tickets, gomai. Rather than memorizing all the numbers now, I believe it is more effective to utilize goal-oriented communication by checking and using them as needed. Additionally, if you omit the object marker, o, the expression would become, desired service, plus, no, plus, chiketo, plus, nimai, plus.
お願いします。
However, if we utilize the strategy of sharing responsibility of conversation mentioned earlier, we can simply use the expression, number of tickets,
お願いします。
depending on the situation. For instance, when we are purchasing tickets to enjoy a concert or a movie, if the ticket counter staff know that we are buying tickets for the concert or movie, it is similar to saying, please give me 2 tickets without needing to specify concert tickets. Therefore, unless we are in a situation where we need to specify which movie we are purchasing a ticket for, we can successfully purchase a ticket for the desired service simply by saying, please give me tickets. In Japanese, we can express this simply as
1枚お願いします。
by sharing the responsibility of conversation with the other party, we can successfully communicate with just simple expressions. The fourth principle of communication, sharing the responsibility of conversation, will be examined in more detail later. Returning to the common core, the third aspect is linguistic sense of common core. The linguistic sense of common core is based on the following idea: no matter where in the world you are using your Japanese expressions, they carry the same meaning. For example, the expression
いくらですか
is not limited to just checking prices in Japan, it retains the same function and meaning in any country around the world. Similarly, the expression "oh, plus, kudasai" can be used when purchasing goods or making requests and has the same meaning in any country, including your area and Japan. Therefore, by utilizing the linguistic sense of common core, you can practice Japanese communication not only in your country and Japan but also anywhere in the world, resulting in a much more efficient learning process for your Japanese language studies. In summary of what we have discussed so far, the macro sense of common core refers to the common communication features that appear between different countries or cultures. By understanding these common features, you can anticipate the procedures and the necessary Japanese expressions for specific communication situations in advance, allowing you to prepare and practice them. Therefore, you can perform goal-oriented communication by utilizing the macro sense of common core. Meanwhile, the micro sense of common core is based on the idea that there are Japanese expressions that can be commonly used in various communication situations. For instance, the expression, "oh, plus, kudasai" can be used in all purchasing situations. By utilizing the micro sense of common core, you can efficiently develop your Japanese communication skills for everyday needs without the need to memorize countless expressions required for various communications. The linguistic sense of common core is based on the view that Japanese expressions carry the same meaning no matter where in the world they are used, whether in your country or in Japan. Even if you learn Japanese in your region or anywhere in the world, your Japanese communication skills will still function with the same meaning and purpose in Japan. In summary, if you understand and utilize the Common Core, you will be able to practice Japanese communication not only in your country and Japan but also anywhere in the world, thereby efficiently and successfully enhancing your Japanese communication skills. The fourth principle is sharing responsibility of conversation. This principle is based on the idea that if you transfer more of the conversational responsibility to your conversation partner, you can efficiently engage in Japanese communication even with your limited Japanese skills. For example, if a Japanese person approaches you and says in broken English, "Excuse me, bakery?" Although that person's English expression may not be perfect, you would understand that they are asking for the location of a bakery or directions to it. The reason you are able to comprehend the imperfect question is that, as an English speaker, you have taken on more of the conversational responsibility to understand the other person's inquiry. Similarly, even if you, as an English speaker, say to a Japanese person,
すみません、パン屋さん。
with your limited Japanese communication skills, that Japanese conversation partner will accurately understand that you are asking for directions to the bakery. This is because, even if you do not convey all the necessary information, the Japanese person can fill in the gaps based on the context of the conversation. In that situation, there will be no Japanese person who misunderstands your intent behind the question "Excuse me, bakery?" as "Excuse me. Please take me to the bakery." Essentially, the fourth communication principle is based on the idea that even if your Japanese expressions are not perfect, the other person can understand your intended meaning. This fourth principle is known as sharing responsibility of conversation. A newborn baby can successfully communicate for survival with its parents or those around it by simply crying, for the baby places more conversational responsibility on its parents or caregivers. Similarly, if you apply this fourth communication principle to your Japanese interactions, you can successfully communicate with Japanese speakers by transferring more conversational responsibility to them, despite your limited Japanese communication skills. As a child gradually takes on more conversational responsibility as their language abilities develop, you can gradually take on more responsibility in Japanese communication from the other person as your own Japanese communication skills improve. Finally, the fifth communication principle is to utilize the strategy of conveying information in small pieces gradually. This principle is based on the idea that by breaking down complex and abundant information into manageable small pieces for communication, you can effectively increase the success rate of communication. In the process of a child's language development, they cannot convey the information they want in a complete sentence all at once, such as saying, "Dad, please buy me snacks." Instead, during this developmental stage, the child conveys the information they want in parts, as illustrated on the screen. We have all likely experienced such communication situations at some point. Children learning their mother tongue use the strategy of conveying information in parts during their language development, which allows them to communicate successfully with those around them despite their limited communication skills. If you, as someone learning Japanese, apply this communication strategy on your Japanese language development, just like children with limited language abilities can successfully communicate, you can significantly increase your Japanese communication success rate. Now, let's compare two different communication situations to understand why this communication strategy is important and how it can enhance communication effectiveness. When you give a speech, you bear the full responsibility of communication and convey a large amount of information all at once. Speeches with this characteristic are not easy, especially if you are speaking in Japanese with limited proficiency, which is not your native language. In contrast, if you are having an interview with someone, you only need to answer the other person's questions. Because you can share the responsibility of the conversation with your partner, even if your Japanese skills are not sufficient, the other person, who shares the conversational responsibility, can help fill in the gaps left by your limited Japanese ability. This means that by sharing the responsibility of conversation and employing the strategy of gradually conveying information in parts, you can successfully communicate in Japanese even with your limited ability. To support this perspective, let's consider the following purchasing situation. You want to buy a pair of running shoes in your country. If you intend to convey all the information about the shoes, including your shoe size and the color, all at once, you should be able to express it like this: "Pink running shoes, size 265 mm, please." In Japanese, you would say,
ピンクのランニングシューズ26ごください。
For beginners learning Japanese, conveying all this information at once may not be easy. On the other hand, if you apply the fourth communication principle, sharing the responsibility of conversation, and the fifth principle, the strategy of gradually conveying information, to this shoe purchasing situation, the Japanese communication you experience when making the purchase can become much easier. If you visit a shoe store to purchase shoes during your trip to Japan, the sales staff will greet you and ask,
どのような靴をお探しですか？
which means what kind of shoes are you looking for? In response to this question from the sales staff, you can simply say,
ランニングシューズをください。
meaning please give me running shoes. This simple reply will make it clear to the staff that you are looking for running shoes. Then, to check your shoe size, the staff will ask.
靴のサイズはどうされますか？
To this question, you can inform them of your size by saying,
26ごください。
This will indicate to the staff that your shoe size is 265 millimeters. Finally, the sales staff will ask to confirm your preferred color by saying,
どの色をご希望ですか？
If your desired color is pink, you can respond simply with,
ピンクをください。
This will let the staff know that you want the color pink. By sharing the responsibility of the conversation and utilizing the strategy of gradually conveying information, your Japanese communication will become much easier, and as a result, your communication success rate will significantly increase. Let's examine the advantages you can gain by applying the fourth and fifth communication strategies to your Japanese communication through another example of a communication situation. This is a communication situation that may occur when purchasing transportation services during your trip to Japan. If you were to buy a train ticket from Chicago to New York, you would convey the departure date and time, destination, and number of tickets to the ticket counter staff by saying, 2 adult tickets to New York for tomorrow at 8:30 a.m., please. If your Japanese communication skills are sufficient, you can utilize the Common Core to convey the departure date and time, destination, and number of tickets to the ticket staff. If you can provide all the necessary information at once, it would resemble the following expression.
明日の午前10時の東京行きの切符を大人2枚ください。
However, if your Japanese communication skills are inadequate, you may not be able to convey all the information at once. In that case, by utilizing the fourth and fifth communication strategies, you will be able to successfully purchase the ticket you desire. When you go to the ticket counter at a train station or subway station to purchase a ticket, the staff will first ask for your destination with the question,
どちらまでですか？
A simple expression to convey your destination is, destination, plus.
お願いします。
Therefore, if your destination is Tokyo, you would respond with,
東京、お願いします。
After that, the staff will confirm whether you want a reserved seat or an unreserved seat. In this case, the staff will ask,
自由席にしますか？それとも指定席にしますか？
Unreserved seats operate similarly to standing area seats. If you want a reserved seat, you can say,
指定席、お願いします。
and if you prefer an unreserved seat, you can say,
自由席、お願いします。
After selecting your desired seats, the ticket staff will confirm your departure date and time. At this point, the staff will ask,
日付と時間はどうされますか？
According to the Common Core, you understand that the staff is confirming your departure date and time. You can respond with,
今日の午後3時、お願いします。
Of course, if it is not the date and time you want, you can utilize goal-oriented communication to check and prepare for your desired departure date and time. Next, the ticket counter staff will ask how many passengers will be traveling.
何名様ですか？
If there are 2 adults, you can express it as,
大人2名、お願いします。
If there is 1 child, you would say,
子供1名、お願いします。
Alternatively, if you want to express a combination of 2 adults and 1 child, you can say,
大人2名と子供1名お願いします。
How to express the number of passengers can be resolved by utilizing goal-oriented communication to check and prepare the necessary expressions before purchasing the tickets. Finally, the ticket staff will check your payment method with the following question.
お支払いはどのようになさいますか？
If you would like to pay by card, you can respond with.
カードでお願いします。
If you prefer to pay in cash, you can say.
現金でお願いします。
As demonstrated in the two communication situations introduced so far, if you share the responsibility of conversation with your conversation partner and utilize the strategy of gradually conveying information, you will be able to successfully communicate in various Japanese communication situations, even with your limited Japanese skills. In conclusion, these principles can enhance the efficiency of communication, and you will particularly notice this increased effectiveness when your Japanese communication abilities are lacking. A table summarizing the explanations provided so far is displayed on the screen. In summary of today's lecture, we focused on the 5 communication principles necessary to develop the Japanese communication skills needed for daily life. By applying these 5 communication principles to your everyday Japanese communication, you can efficiently enhance your communication skills essential for living in Japan. The first communication principle is to understand the key expressions required at each stage in purchasing situations that occur in 4 procedural steps. The second communication principle, goal-oriented communication, will guide you to check, prepare, and practice the Japanese expressions necessary for participating in specific Japanese communication. As a result, it will efficiently enhance your Japanese communication skills. By utilizing the third communication principle, Common Core, you can check, prepare, and practice the expressions necessary for specific Japanese communication in advance. The Common Core helps you understand the common characteristics shared between different countries or cultures. This enables you to effectively utilize goal-oriented communication in various Japanese communication situations, making your communication much easier. Importantly, if you apply the third communication principle, Common Core, to your Japanese communication, you will be able to practice your Japanese expressions not only in Japan but also in your area and any country where Japanese is spoken. This learning activity will greatly assist you in efficiently developing the Japanese communication skills needed for your daily life in Japan. The fourth communication principle, sharing responsibility of conversation, will help you successfully engage in Japanese communication even with your limited Japanese skills. Finally, the principle of gradually conveying information in small pieces guides you to break down the information you want to convey into smaller, manageable parts, enabling you to communicate effectively even with your limited Japanese language abilities. If you apply the 5 principles introduced today to your Japanese communication, you will be able to develop your Japanese communication skills quickly and efficiently, whether in your country, Japan, or anywhere in the world. I would like to thank all of you for participating in today's class. I will return next time with more useful content. See you in the next lecture.